The shocking truth unveiled, Scout's devastating revelation rocks Port Charles. Drew Cain's reign of terror comes to a violent end. The streets of Port Charles have been buzzing with tension for months, as Congressman Drew Cain's increasingly erratic behavior finally reached its devastating climax. What began as political maneuvering and personal vendettas has now erupted into a shocking act of violence that will forever change the lives of multiple families. Drew's transformation from respected congressman to Port Charles' most despised resident has been nothing short of spectacular. His blackmail schemes against Portia Robinson, his cruel separation of Scout from her family, and his relentless attacks on the Corinthos family have created a powder keg of resentment throughout the community. But no one could have predicted how this explosive situation would ultimately unfold. The night everything changed. On what seemed like an ordinary evening, Drew returned to his home, feeling confident about his future with Willow Tate. As he poured himself a drink and gazed at Lila's engagement ring beside a photograph of himself and Willow, he declared aloud, "It's all going to work out, Willow. You'll see." These would prove to be among his final words of confidence. Unknown to Drew, Trina Robinson and Kai Taylor had broken into his residence, desperately searching for evidence of the blackmail material he held over Portia. Hidden in the bedroom, they watched in horror as the evening took a deadly turn. The two young people had come seeking justice for Trina's mother, but instead became unwitting witnesses to an attempted murder. Trina and Kai, hidden witnesses to terror. As Drew stood with his back to the windows, savoring what he believed would be his triumphant future, a gunshot shattered the quiet night. The bullet struck him in the back, sending him crashing to the floor in shock. But the nightmare wasn't over. A shadowy figure stepped into the room and fired a second shot at close range, ensuring maximum damage. Trina and Kai, concealed in the bedroom, were paralyzed with fear as they witnessed this brutal attack. Their original mission to help Portia had transformed into a terrifying ordeal that would haunt them forever. They remained hidden, unable to see the shooter's face, their hearts pounding as they realized they had just witnessed what appeared to be an execution-style shooting. The irony was not lost on anyone familiar with Drew's recent actions. This was a man who had torn families apart, weaponized children against their loved ones, and shown no mercy to those who stood in his way. Yet as he lay bleeding on his living room floor, he became the victim of the very violence he had sown throughout Port Charles. Scout's devastating discovery. While Trina and Kai remained hidden, terrified to move or make a sound, another witness was present that night, one whose testimony would shock the entire community. Scout Quartermain, Drew's own daughter, had seen everything unfold. The innocent child, who had already endured the trauma of losing her mother Sam McCall and being separated from her beloved brothers, was about to deliver the most devastating blow of all. Scout's presence at the scene was particularly tragic given her recent struggles. Drew's relentless campaign to isolate her from the Quartermain family had left the young girl desperate for connection with her brothers Danny and Rocco. His refusal to allow family visits, combined with his threats to have Danny arrested for kidnapping when the boy simply wanted to spend time with his sister, had created an atmosphere of fear and resentment. The little girl who once found comfort in the arms of her grandmother Monica and the protective presence of her brothers was now the sole witness to her father's violent downfall. The trauma of what she observed would leave psychological scars that might never fully heal. Danny's shocking secret exposed. When Detective Dante Falconeri arrived on the scene to investigate the shooting, the last thing he expected was to encounter Scout, trembling and traumatized by what she had witnessed. As Dante gently questioned the child, hoping to gather crucial information about the attack, Scout made a revelation that sent shockwaves through the Port Charles Police Department. Through tears and with a voice barely above a whisper, Scout told Dante the unthinkable truth. It was Danny, her own half-brother, who had pulled the trigger. The revelation hit like a thunderbolt, transforming what appeared to be a complex whodunit with multiple suspects into a heartbreaking family tragedy with devastating implications. Danny Morgan, the teenager who had only wanted to protect his little sister and maintain their family bond, had apparently reached his breaking point. Drew's threats to have him arrested for kidnapping, his cruel words about Danny being only a half-brother to Scout, and his systematic destruction of their family unit had pushed the young man over the edge. The arrest that shattered two families. Armed with Scout's eyewitness testimony, Dante faced one of the most difficult moments of his career. Danny Morgan, Jason's son, Sam's beloved boy, and Scout's protective older brother, had to be arrested for the attempted murder of Drew Cain. The irony was crushing. Drew had previously demanded Danny's arrest for the innocent act of taking Scout to visit family, and now Danny faced arrest for a far more serious crime. The arrest scene was heartbreaking as Dante, who had watched Danny grow up and knew him as a good kid caught in an impossible situation, was forced to place handcuffs on the teenager. The sight of Danny being led away while Scout watched in horror created one of the most emotionally devastating moments in recent General Hospital history. For Jason Morgan, the arrest of his son represented the culmination of his worst fears. He had tried to shield Danny from the violence that seemed to follow their family, but Drew's relentless campaign of terror had ultimately corrupted even his innocent child. The man who had spent years trying to protect his family from the mob violence of Port Charles now watched his son become a victim of a different kind of warfare, the psychological terrorism that Drew had inflicted on everyone he encountered. The ripple effects through Port Charles. News of Danny's arrest spread quickly through Port Charles, creating shockwaves that reverberated through every corner of the community. For the Quartermain family, the revelation was particularly devastating. Monica Quartermain, who had been denied access to Scout by Drew's restraining orders, now faced the horrible reality that her great-grandson had been driven to violence by Drew's cruelty. Alexis Davis, who had fought so hard for the right to see her granddaughter, found herself grappling with the knowledge that her grandson was now facing murder charges. The legal expert who had battled Drew in court now faced the prospect of defending Danny against the most serious charges imaginable. For Trina and Kai, their secret mission had resulted in them becoming crucial witnesses to a crime that would define their lives forever. Their initial goal of helping Portia had transformed into something far more complex and dangerous. They possessed knowledge about Danny's whereabouts and state of mind that could prove crucial to his defense. But revealing their presence at the scene would also expose their own illegal activities. A community divided. The arrest divided Port Charles in unexpected ways. While many residents had openly wished for Drew's downfall, few could celebrate when it came at the cost of a teenager's future. Danny's action, while extreme, was seen by many as the desperate act of a young man pushed beyond his limits by an adult who should have protected him rather than terrorized him. Carly Spencer, who had herself threatened Drew's life, found herself in the position of defending Danny's actions, while simultaneously condemning the violence. Her maternal instincts kicked in as she recognized that Danny had been protecting his sister in the only way his traumatized mind could conceive. The tragedy highlighted the collateral damage of Drew's reign of terror. His systematic campaign to destroy the lives of Port Charles residents had created an environment where even children were not safe from the psychological warfare he waged. Scout's trauma, Danny's desperation, and the fear that gripped families throughout the community were all direct results of Drew's calculated cruelty. The investigation begins. As Anna Devane and the Port Charles Police Department launched their investigation, they faced the unusual situation of having too many suspects rather than too few. The list of people who wanted Drew dead was so extensive that initially, investigators struggled to narrow down their focus. Portia Robinson, who had been blackmailed for months; Curtis Ashford, who had been publicly threatened; Michael Corinthos, whose marriage Drew had destroyed; Nina Reeves, whose relationship with her daughter Drew had poisoned; Sonny Corinthos, whose family Drew had targeted. All remained under scrutiny, even after Scout's revelation about Danny. The complexity of the case was compounded by the fact that while Danny had pulled the trigger, the environment that drove him to that point had been created by Drew's systematic abuse of power and position. Investigators found themselves examining not just the shooting itself, but the months of psychological terrorism that had preceded it. The path forward. As Port Charles grapples with the aftermath of this shocking revelation, the community faces difficult questions about justice, revenge, and the protection of children caught in adult conflicts. Danny's arrest marks the beginning of what promises to be a complex legal battle that will test the bonds of family, friendship, and community in ways no one could have anticipated. Scout's courage in revealing the truth, despite the cost to her brother, demonstrates the impossible position Drew's actions had placed these children in. Her testimony may be crucial to the prosecution's case, but it also ensures that she will carry the burden of her brother's fate for the rest of her life. The tragedy serves as a stark reminder that in Port Charles, actions have consequences, and those consequences often extend far beyond the intended targets. Drew Cain's campaign of terror has finally ended, but the healing process for the families he destroyed will take much longer to complete. As the legal proceedings begin, and the community struggles to make sense of this shocking turn of events, One thing remains clear: the shooting of Drew Cain has changed Port Charles forever, leaving scars that may never fully heal and raising questions about justice that have no easy answers. Next, we will dive into the heart-pounding drama surrounding Jocelyn "Joss" Jacks and her companion Vaughn, whose perilous situation at the Five Poppies Hotel keeps fans on the edge of their seats. The tension is building to a fever pitch in a world of General Hospital, where spoilers indicate that Joss and Vaughn find themselves in grave danger. Well into September 5th, despite Britt Westburn's frantic attempt to reach out via a hidden burner phone to her trusted ally Jason Morgan, the duo remains confined in the dimly lit basement of the luxurious yet sinister Five Poppies Hotel, courtesy of the cunning antagonist Pascal. Imagine the chilling atmosphere down there, echoing drips from leaky pipes, the faint hum of distant traffic, and the constant fear that every shadow could conceal a threat. This setup hints at a rescue operation that's far from straightforward, potentially stretching the ordeal beyond the immediate episodes. Could it be that external factors, like unexpected reinforcements for Pascal or a sudden blackout in the hotel's power grid, throw a wrench into the plans? The previews tease that their liberation might not come as swiftly as hoped, leaving viewers to ponder if this cliffhanger will dominate the week's storyline, building suspense with every passing scene. Delving deeper into the possibilities, the delayed rescue scenario adds layers of complexity to the plot. On September 5th, the previews emphasized Joss and Vaughn's escalating dread, suggesting that even with Britt's bold move to contact Jason, freedom isn't guaranteed right away. Picture Britt slipping away from the chaos upstairs, her heart racing as she dials that secret number, only to encounter obstacles that could range from Pascal's vigilant guards patrolling the halls to a malfunctioning phone signal due to the hotel's remote location in Croatia. These complications might force a postponement, turning what could have been a quick extraction into a drawn-out battle of wits. Fans are buzzing about whether Jason's visible shock in the teaser stems from uncovering Joss's covert involvement with the WSB, a revelation that could introduce bureaucratic red tape or conflicting loyalties, further muddling the mission. To expand on this, perhaps Jason arrives on the scene equipped with makeshift tools from a nearby market, disguised as a delivery worker to blend innately to face a locked door reinforced with high-tech security measures installed by Pascal's crew. This buildup of tension without an immediate payoff could mean the actual breakout happens midweek, allowing time for character development, such as Joss reflecting on her choices during those harrowing hours, or Vaughn sharing untold backstories that deepen their bond amid the crisis. Shifting gears to another thrilling angle, what if the rescue does succeed this week, but it merely trades one nightmare for another? Spoilers suggest that Joss and Vaughn's fear persists on September 5th, implying that breaking free from the basement unleashes a wave of pursuit from formidable foes, like Jen Sidwell and his web of associates. Once out, they might navigate the winding streets of Croatia under the cover of night, dodging surveillance cameras and suspicious locals who could be in Sidwell's pocket. Knowing intimate details about the Five Poppies' illicit operations, perhaps involving underground dealings in rare artifacts, or shadowy financial schemes, positions them as prime targets, loose threads that Sidwell's network would eagerly snip. Escaping the country wouldn't spell the end. Instead, it could ignite a relentless chase, with the pair resorting to disguises, forged documents, or even hitchhiking through rural areas to evade capture. Inventing a new twist, maybe they stumble upon a hidden safe house provided by an anonymous WSB contact, but not before a close call with assassins in a high-speed car pursuit along coastal roads. Back in the US, this could escalate into federal entanglements, as their innocent vacation morphs into a magnet for international intrigue, potentially drawing in agencies like the FBI if Sidwell's operations cross borders. The stakes rise dramatically, forcing Joss and Vaughn to consider vanishing off the grid, perhaps adopting new identities in a quiet suburb, all while grappling with the psychological toll of constant vigilance. The ripple effects of this saga could extend far beyond Joss and Vaughn, potentially invading the familiar streets of Port Charles and putting beloved characters at risk. If Joss inadvertently guides Pascal or Sidwell's henchman back home bay through a tracked phone, or a betrayed confidant, their inner circle, including her mother Carly Spencer and the ever-reliable Jason, might become collateral damage in a brewing storm. Envision the chaos, goons lurking in the shadows of the Metrocourt Hotel, or a drive-by threat near the Quartermain Mansion, transforming the quaint town into a hotspot for vendettas. Joss's connections to WSB Chief Jack Brennan could provide a shield, offering resources like safe houses or surveillance teams. But revealing these ties might jeopardize Carly's budding relationship with Jack, adding emotional turmoil to the mix. To flesh this out with fresh details, perhaps Trina Robinson gets caught in the crossfire during a casual coffee meetup with Joss, or the Ashford family faces intimidation at their home, prompting a community-wide alert. This invasion could spark a broader conflict, drawing in power players like Sonny Corinthos, who might mobilize his own network of infrastructure with encrypted communications, and strategic alliances to protect the town. Sonny's involvement could introduce high-octane action sequences, such as a tense standoff at the docks, or a covert operation to dismantle Sidwell's infiltrating forces, blending family loyalty with gritty underworld tactics. As the plot thickens, one can't help but speculate on the long-term implications for Port Charles residents. Joss's return, laden with these dangers, might force alliances to shift, with characters like Michael Corinthos stepping up to safeguard his sister, or even Anna Devane leveraging her WSB expertise to coordinate defenses. The narrative could explore themes of trust and betrayal, as Joss navigates the fallout of her secret life, perhaps confiding in unexpected allies like Nina Reeves for emotional support. Adding inventive elements, imagine a subplot where Vaughn, revealed to have his own hidden agenda tied to a past grudge against Sidwell, becomes a wild card in the escape, his decisions either aiding or complicating the group's safety. The town's transformation into a battleground might include public safety measures, like increased police presence led by Mac Scorpio, or community meetings at Kelly's Diner to discuss the rising threats. Ultimately, this storyline promises to weave together personal stakes with high adrenaline pursuits, keeping viewers hooked. Next, we will dive into a heartbreaking story involving one of our favorite stars and a shocking scam that has left a family in turmoil. In the world of daytime drama, where twists and turns keep fans on the edge of their seats, real-life events can sometimes mirror the intensity of the scripts. Just recently, Steve Burton, beloved for his role as the enigmatic Jason Morgan on ABC's General Hospital, found himself unwittingly at the center of a distressing incident. It all unfolded when news broke about a sophisticated fraud that preyed on an unsuspecting admirer, using cutting-edge technology to mimic the actor's persona. This tale isn't just about celebrity involvement. It's a stark reminder of how digital deception can shatter lives, particularly for those already facing personal challenges. Over the past few days, whispers among the GH community have grown louder, with supporters expressing concern for both the victim and Burton himself, as he navigates the fallout from this unexpected association. The scam in question targeted a 66-year-old woman named Abigail, a devoted fan of the show who had long admired Burton's on-screen charisma. Criminals employed artificial intelligence to craft convincing deepfake videos and voice messages that perfectly replicated the actor's distinctive tone and mannerisms. They spun a web of lies, convincing Abigail that she was engaging in a secret online romance with the real Steve Burton. This elaborate ruse played out over several weeks, with the imposters building trust through seemingly personal interactions, sharing fabricated stories about Burton's life behind the scenes, and even hinting at exclusive General Hospital plot secrets to make it feel authentic. Tragically, Abigail, who has been living with bipolar disorder for years, was experiencing a severe manic episode during this time, which clouded her judgment and made her more susceptible to the manipulation. The scammers exploited this vulnerability, gradually coaxing her into making life-altering decisions under the guise of helping her idol in a supposed time of need. At the heart of the recovery efforts is a GoFundMe campaign initiated by Abigail's daughter, Vivian Ruvalcaba, right here in the bustling city of Los Angeles. Titled Help Vivian Save Her Mother's Home and Dignity, the fundraiser paints a vivid picture of desperation and resilience. Vivian, a dedicated caregiver who balances her own career in community outreach with supporting her mother, set an ambitious goal of $18,000 to tackle mounting legal expenses. These funds are crucial for hiring specialized attorneys experienced in fraud cases, covering court filing fees, and potentially securing temporary housing if the worst comes to pass. As of the latest update, the campaign has garnered just over $1.550 from a growing circle of 30 compassionate donors, including fellow GH enthusiasts who were moved by the story's connection to their favorite show. While this amount represents a heartfelt start, it falls significantly short of the target, leaving the family in a precarious position as deadlines loom. Vivian has shared touching anecdotes on the page, like how her mother used to host watch parties for General Hospital episodes, turning the living room into a mini fan club hub. Now threatened by this ordeal, the scam's devastating impact began when Abigail, convinced she was aiding Burton in a personal crisis, agreed to sell her modest condominium, a property she had owned for over 2 decades, and viewed as her family's anchor of stability. The sale fetched $350,000, a sum that the scammers swiftly siphoned away through a series of wire transfers and bogus investment schemes. They promised Abigail that the money would secure a brighter future together, perhaps even a chance to meet in person at a glamorous Hollywood event. Instead, the funds vanished into the ether, leaving her destitute. Compounding the tragedy, an opportunistic real estate firm quickly snapped up the condo and resold it at a markup, profiting from the chaos without a second thought. This flip not only erased the family's equity, but also symbolized the erasure of cherished memories. From holiday gatherings to quiet evenings watching reruns of Jason Morgan's adventures, Vivian, armed with power of attorney, has since launched a fierce legal counterattack, filing motions to contest the sale's validity and halt the impending eviction. She's gathered evidence, including digital forensics reports that trace the AI-generated communications back to overseas servers, highlighting the global reach of such crimes. Vivian's plea extends beyond financial aid. It's a call to action for greater awareness in an era where technology blurs the lines between reality and fabrication. She recounts how initial attempts to negotiate with the buyers fell flat-footing. To repay the purchase price in installments was met with cold rejection and an eviction notice, slapped on the door like a final insult. This wasn't merely a trick, Vivian emphasized in her campaign description. It robbed us of our sanctuary and shattered our sense of security. She delves into the emotional toll, describing late-night conversations where her mother, now stabilized with medication, grapples with regret and confusion over how she could have been so thoroughly deceived. The fundraiser underscores the predatory tactics used against vulnerable populations, such as seniors on fixed incomes or those with mental health conditions. Abigail, who relies on Social Security disability payments due to her disorder's long-term effects, represents countless others who might not have a voice to fight back. Vivian has even incorporated educational snippets into the GoFundMe updates, sharing tips on spotting AI fakes, like checking for unnatural pauses in videos or verifying social media accounts. Through official channels, Steve Burton himself stepped into the spotlight to address the situation, using his platform to protect his fans from similar pitfalls. In a candid interview, he firmly stated that he would never solicit money or personal favors from admirers, urging everyone to report suspicious contacts immediately. He reviewed the scam video and admitted, "That voice is spot on. Absolutely like mine. It's eerie how advanced this stuff has gotten." This admission adds a layer of authenticity to the warnings, as Burton draws from his own experiences in the entertainment industry, where deepfakes are increasingly used for everything from movie effects to malicious hoaxes. He encouraged his followers to stay vigilant, perhaps by double-checking any celebrity outreach against verified profiles, or consulting family members before acting. The incident has sparked broader discussions within the GH fandom, with online forums buzzing about the need for better safeguards, like watermarking technologies for videos or mandatory AI disclosure labels on social media. As donations trickle in, ranging from humble $5 contributions from students to more substantial $500 gifts from sympathetic professionals, the campaign stands as a beacon of hope amid despair. Vivian assures potential supporters that every penny counts, potentially tipping the scales in court by funding expert witnesses who can testify to the scam's sophistication. She's transparent about the process, promising regular updates on legal progress and how funds are allocated, perhaps to a pro bono clinic specializing in elder abuse cases. The story also shines a light on systemic issues, such as the lack of robust protections for those with disabilities, who often fall through the cracks in a fast-paced digital world. Abigail's journey from enthusiastic fan to scam victim illustrates the human cost, with her once vibrant life now overshadowed by uncertainty. Yet, there's optimism in the community's response. Some donors have shared their own close calls with fraud, fostering a sense of solidarity. In wrapping up this eye-opening account, it's clear that AI-driven scams are evolving rapidly, making it imperative for everyone from soap opera aficionados to everyday internet users to arm themselves with knowledge. For Vivian and Abigail, the fight continues, not just for a home, but for reclaiming dignity after a profound betrayal. If this tale resonates with you, consider visiting the GoFundMe page to lend a hand. Even small acts can rebuild what was lost. Stay tuned to our channel for more updates on this and other GH news. And remember, in both real and real life, caution is key.